Well, we're just about 1 month away from the end of 2022, and it does kind of feel like this year has flown by. But right about now, the end of November, is when we'd kind of take a minute and maybe try to catch up on some of the games that have piled up throughout October and November. Typically a 2 month window when there's just a bunch of releases jammed together. But I took a look at December, and it feels like this month is almost just as packed. It doesn't have like a Pokemon or a God of War that are going to bring in those kinds of sales numbers, but there are some pretty good releases in here, and it makes me think that maybe some of these titles just got pushed up to the last possible release and are just trying to fit it into 2022, because I don't know if I've seen a December this packed with games. And we're going to take a look at some of those titles here today. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button. And if you're new to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. I did a video like this on the second channel. People seem to really enjoy it. And there is a title in here that I want to bring a lot of attention to. So we're going to start at the top, though. December 1st, like right away, we kick off the month. And we do have a release for Gundam Evolution. I played this game on the PC because it had already released on PC. This is a release for consoles specifically. And it's sort of a Gundam hero shooter kind of game. It's an interesting take, I will say that. The only issue I had with it is, one, the disconnection problems, and two, the Gundams don't really feel large necessarily, but it's a different take on the Gundam franchise, and it's free to play. So maybe if you're looking for just a new multiplayer game to try out, there you go. You can give it a download and see what you think. But then we get into December 2nd, and I don't know how this all worked out, but there are 3 games that I'm interested in, all releasing on that same day. And they're pretty big titles. Callisto Protocol, which we've been talking about obviously for a while now, since it was first revealed, yes, but then shown off with full gameplay, and it seemed like we were getting that big Dead Space successor from Glenn Schofield. And the more they've shown this game, the more and more excited I've been getting for it, to the point now where I'm just ready for this thing to come out. So I'm very happy that it's out next week on December 2nd. I'll be picking it up. They already announced plans for more content going forward for the Callisto Protocol, so I'm very curious to see what we have there. And horror fans are looking pretty good over the next several months, with Dead Space Remake and Resident Evil 4 Remake coming up as well. Same day, Marvel's Midnight Suns. This is specifically for the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. All right, so the like last gen console versions, those have been delayed out. The Switch, same deal. So we'll find out more about those next year. But for now, we have current gen versions of this game coming out. And this is one that, I mean, I like the idea of a Marvel XCOM style game. I think the thing that's throwing everyone off, myself included, is that they sort of pulled some inspiration from Phantom Dust, and they're going with this card-based strategy setup. Out of morbid curiosity, I want to see how this turns out. So I'll be checking out Midnight Suns, but I'll be honest, out of the 3 games coming out on December 2nd, it's like at the bottom of the list of priorities for me, because following that up on the same day, again, next or current gen platform specifically, Need for Speed Unbound. All right, so Need for Speed, I think they're on to something there with Need for Speed Heat. I enjoyed that game. The only issue I have with it still to this day is that they never went back and patched it to unlock the frame rate. It's still stuck at 30 frames on consoles, which is the biggest reason. The only way I can really recommend that currently for racing fans is on PC, where you can go above that 30 FPS cap. And racing games like these certainly need, I think anyway, 60 frames per second, or at least an unlocked frame rate to give you a more fluid feeling to it. But Need for Speed Unbound has gone through ups and downs with me personally, because when we first had footage leak out for this game, they showed off some of the cartoony effects, and it was certainly in a play testing phase, is what I'll say. It didn't necessarily line up with things around it, specifically in the background or even some of the car models. But as they've had a chance to show more of it off, talk about things like the ability to turn those effects off completely, you know, I'm kind of liking what I'm seeing, especially with, well, the gameplay, which does look closer. I guess I'll say closer maybe to Undercover It's drawing comparisons to Need for Speed Underground as well, but it's sort of between those two. I like what we've seen with Need for Speed Heat, so I'm already excited for what was going to be next. And Unbound, as I said, they're showing more and more of it off. Looks very stylized. I'm on board with this one. As soon as it drops, it'll have online multiplayer as well. And here's the other good thing. If you're part of Game Pass Ultimate, you have access to like the EA Play top tier, which will allow you to play Need for Speed Unbound early on the 29th, and you'll get 10 hours of gameplay out of it. So you can essentially trial it and decide if you want to pick it up. From there, we move to December 8th, and I kind of picked this one up as I was going through December releases, and it certainly piqued my interest because it's more of an old school turn-based JRPG that's Chained Echoes. To my understanding, Deck 13 is publishing this one. I'm not 100% sure on the developer necessarily, but Deck 13 also published Crosscode, and I liked that game. So I'm looking at this as maybe being in a similar vein as, hey, we're going to go more towards the old school, sure, indie scene, yes, but really harken back to the days of that 16-bit JRPG era. And it's coming out on all different platforms. They're going to have a physical release for it next year. But I just kind of saw this and said, that looks interesting as someone who certainly enjoyed a bunch of 16-bit JRPGs. So I'll have that on my radar and see how it turns out. That's going to be a game, though. I feel like a lot's going to be happening that I'll probably end up having to play it next year. And maybe I'll even look towards that physical copy just to add it to the collection. The following day, Dragon Quest Treasures. The more I've seen of this as well, I'll admit, the Dragon Quest spin-offs, I've been okay with. I mostly just enjoy the mainline Dragon Quest games as they come out. Although Dragon Quest 3, the HD2 remake, looks awesome. But Dragon Quest Builders, they're fun. I fall out of them, though. So Dragon Quest Treasures, they've been showing it off, and it does have ties, of course, to Dragon Quest 11, which is an awesome JRPG. If you've not played it, go pick it up. Any platform, whatever. It's Dragon Quest 11S, awesome title. So because it has ties to a JRPG I really enjoyed from the mainline series, I'm interested in checking this one out. It does look like there's going to be a lot to do and a lot to collect in that one. And then we get to the big one. This is a game that I've been asking for so long. If you've been on this channel for any period of time, you've probably heard me call for a Crisis Core remaster or port from Square Enix. And trust me, it got louder when I played through Final Fantasy VII Remake, which if you've played through it, you know. I feel like it's been long enough to say that there is going to be a focus on Zack in some capacity. Looking at Crisis Core Reunion, they have done nothing but call it like a remaster, and then they kind of shifted away from that a bit, and that's one of the reasons they called it Reunion, because it's not quite a remake, and it's skating that blurred line. Is it a remaster? Is it a remake? I kind of feel like this is a remake. I'm at least leaning towards that side of things. It's coming out December 13th, all right? And it looks great. Like, visually, it looks, well, so much better, obviously, than the PSP version. It was on the PSP. If you play it now and you blow it up, visually, it looks rough, all right, from the PSP, which is dealing with lower resolution and all that. It's still a fun game overall, but they have fully remastered in HD. They renewed the 3D models, as they say, characters, backgrounds, which they kind of need to because they're pushing 4K 60 on the PS5 and the Xbox Series and all of this. I believe on the Switch it'll be 720/30. But they say they also improved the battle system, mostly aiming for smoother gameplay. They didn't mess around necessarily with the spinning slots at the top, and I know it's kind of a controversial thing still, but I liked it because it was pretty unique, and when it worked out, it was a lot of fun. And they also fully voiced all the dialogue, English, Japanese, a newly arranged soundtrack. This sounds incredible. So yeah, I'm all in on Crisis Core Reunion. That is absolutely my most anticipated title for December. And then on that same day, December 13th, we have High on Life releasing. This is a game that was actually delayed a couple of months from what I remember. It was going to go to Xbox, I believe, in October, but it got pushed just to the end of the year. So December 13th, again, these games are just making it in to 2022, but it is going to Game Pass, and this is from the creators of Rick and Morty. You can tell based on some of the voicing and also some of the comedy that's part of it. I do like the idea of this Metroidvania first-person adventure shooter style game where the guns and the weapons have a lot of personality, and I know some people were rolling their eyes at the different things that they were saying and stuff. And there were some concerns around that boss battle they showed, as it looking kind of basic and not too intense or anything there. But I like the idea of it being a more creative style of Metroidvania game with a lot going on when it comes to the personality of the game itself. It certainly looks like something I've never seen before with the art style and all this. So the only question I have is the gameplay and how they can keep shaking it up and making it feel fresh, but it's going into Game Pass, so there is that nice thing of, well, I can download it and try it out and see what I think. And then finally, we don't have a release date for this game. I assume it's coming at any time since we're just about into December, but that is Sports Story. What an awesome surprise, by the way, during that Indie World Direct that they just said, hey, it's coming out next month, basically. I've been talking about this game for a while now because Golf Story is such an awesome game. I really enjoyed the older RPG golfing style games that we had with Mario Golf on the Game Boy Advance, as an example. There was an entire story. You would level up your different stats, and Golf Story took it to the next level where, yes, they got kind of silly with the whole thing and they played outside of golf just in general. They were just having fun with the game, and I wasn't expecting as much out of a game that was based on golf as I got out of Golf Story. And now we're going to the next level with Sports Story, where they're going to incorporate all types of other sports. And it almost looks like it's going more towards a Rune Factory style game where it's kind of life sim as well with dungeons and other parts to it. So I'm thinking, based on how much longer they've been working on this one, I know it's a small team, obviously, but like how much time they've been working on this one compared to Golf Story, I feel like there's going to be a lot here. So I'm just waiting for that release date to get announced so I can make sure I have this one on my list. But those are all the games I have marked down here for December that I'm looking forward to. And the fact that I was able to come up with 9 games for December is actually pretty impressive overall. As I mentioned, I think some of these, they're just trying to get them out by the end of the year, and they're all just happen to fit into December, with some of them running up to the second week of the month. But wow, I was not expecting to have this much to look forward to after what we had in October and November. Things already piled up there, and now we're throwing just more onto the backlog with some pretty quality titles here. But let me know what you guys are looking forward to going into the month of December, whether it's Need for Speed or Crisis Core Reunion or even the Callisto Protocol. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.